Beruchim Abim, and welcome to Torah Talks Chazaq's program with special guests. We have with us a very, very special episode. We have a Rabbi Moshe Yoel Walkin Shlita, Baruch Haba Rebbe, and we have a very dear friend of Chazaq, director of the Chazaq Teen Division. He's to be my co-host. First time ever we have Rabbi Walkin. That's we're gonna have Bezat Hashem together.
I'm great.
Have a Torah talk.
Greatness from both sides.
We're gonna have a Torah talk from your father Shlita. So Rabbi Avram's gonna help me out a little bit. We're going to discuss the background, the lineage, and the yichus, a world we once knew. Rabbi Avram, please.
So it's a big honor that you're sitting with us. And, I get to hear stories from you in the past. But here, Baruch Hashem, we get to, on a podcast that the world could know. Even the world knows who Rabbi Moshe Yoel Walkin is. But we're getting to a broader audience. So we can share some of the great stories of yesteryear of what we've been through. So you were born where? Where were you born?
I was born in Radin.
Radin. You were born in Radin.
Lakach.
Till what age? Do you remember till what age you were in Radin? Around?
I was 8 months old.
8 months old. Wow. So you don't remember it, let's just say. Okay, beautiful. And
for all those that don't know, Radin is where the Chafetz Chaim.
There you go. Chafetz Chaim and many Gedolim. Radin wasn't just Chafetz Chaim. Radin was a famous place where many Gedolim. Rabbi Chaim Vassiner was there for many years. So your grandfather, the Beis Aaron,
right?
Very famous gadol from Europe, a big poetic from the
right.
Sfarim of world.
He wrote a lot of Sfarim that the Klal Yisrael uses it. They all use this Sfarim. There was a certain person, I don't remember his name. He says, you know what the koyach of the Beis Aaron was?
Yeah.
That he learned the Gemara and he said everything in the Pshat in the Gemara.
Mamish learned the Gemara.
Right. He was able to bring out what he says from the Gemara. This is the koyach, to use up the Gemara and bring up the Pshat.
Almost halacha.
It wasn't a pilpul. It was the emes of the Pshat.
The Pshat. And we all know that the Beis Aaron also, many of his Sfarim was written in prison. He was the communist.
Okay, yeah. I get to there.
So we're going to get to there. Okay.
I'll get to there. But I want to start with the Baruch Be'er. Baruch Be'er is why is that the Beis Aaron Sfarim is so mikubel. And he was also in Maloshin there. So there was, Rabbi Aaron had a son that was called Rabbi Yitzchak. And Rabbi Yitzchak wanted to explain it to, he was an interpreter. So Rabbi Yitzchak wanted to explain why was the Beis Aaron Sfarim so mikubel and his Sfarim were not so mikubel. So he says that when the Beis Aaron went to Naftali Tzvi, that was his name.
Trup, it's Naftali Tzvi, Trup, the Netziv.
The Netziv.
Right.
The Netziv was Naftali Tzvi. And when he passed away, the Beis Aaron was crying for him for a whole year. For a whole year he was crying for him. Mamish, like he lost his Rebbe. So this is what Rabbi Yitzchak told this to Rabbi Be'er. He said, if a person is so devoted to a Rebbe, he was only 18 years old when he went to the Netziv. 18 years old. So he says, if a person is so devoted to a Rebbe that he was crying for him for a whole year, what do you want for that? This farm are also so deep.
Wow, because the Torah is straight from his Rebbe's mouth almost. Almost from his Rebbe's mouth.
A whole year he was crying. Why? For Naftali Tzvi, that he passed away.
And also you mentioned that we brought up how some of the Sfarim that the Beis Aaron wrote, he wrote without any other Sfarim because he was in prison by the communists.
Oh, but what happened was, he was talking against the Bolsheviks. He was talking against them, and that's where he wrote his sefer, because what's becoming Torah, Hashor, Habor, Vamave, Vaheva, all the Arba of his Nazikina in Babakama. Therefore, from the Bolsheviks, he was able.
He saw that.
I hear you. And that's why he wrote his sefer.
He was able to write it from his experience with those.
Right.
I hear you. But it's an unbelievable thing to write a Sfarim like that.
There was once a Rebbe came and he wanted to speak to the Chafetz Chaim. The Chafetz Chaim, he avoided him. Still, you notice the Chafetz Chaim was avoiding him. So he asked, do you remember, I forgot his name of the person there. You remember this person's name? He says, yes. Do you know? He wanted to go into the yeshiva, but you didn't take him in. So he became the rush of all
all those bad people, whatever,
right,
people that were attacking clients.
I forgot what his name was. You remember him? He had a Jewish name, and he didn't want to take him in because the mother was like, mother, she wasn't.
What did the Chafetz Chaim say to that? How did he answer that?
No, what the Rav answered to that.
The Chafetz Chaim answered to the other person, to that Rav.
Right.
Wow, I do remember that story, actually. I do remember that story.
Remember?
That the Chafetz Chaim said to this Rosh Hashiva that didn't take the boy in.
They didn't want to take it.
That looked because of this.
They saw the
name of it.
I forgot his name. Could you imagine if he would be in yeshiva? He was
with his head.
He was the rush of all the
gangsters.
Bundisten. He would have turned the whole thing. He would have turned the whole thing upside down.
Now, who was Rav Moshe Landinsky in this whole story?
This was my grandfather.
From who? From your mother's side?
That was from my grandmother's side, right?
Your mother's mother,
right? My mother's mother, right?
Father was Landinsky. What was he? Was he a Rosh Hashiva?
Well, Moshe Landinsky was a person that knew Shas Malpeh. He was walking around, and sometimes he bumped into a tree. She said, I'm sorry.
He was so involved in his time.
All of Shas Bar.
Yeah. He was the famous story. They once asked him, was trachst du? That says garnish. He asked a boy.
Yeah.
He asked once a boy, was trachst du? So the guy said, what are you thinking about right now? So the boy said, garnish. Says, this is what you're going to know. If you how can you walk around and not be thinking something?
Right.
That's Rav Moshe Landinsky. Now, about your father, Rav Shmuel David. Tell us a little bit about the Adam Gadol that Rav Shmuel David Walkin, your father, was. Okay. Stories about Shanghai,
my father had a tremendous good heart. A tremendous good heart. Just sometimes he had to buy. He went to buy for them. And this is how we lost him. And we found him in Vilna. In Vilna, we found him again. He was looking for visas, how to travel.
He was involved with a lot of the famous story that I just read.
Henkin.
No, with from the Rashiva from the Mir. What's his name?
Neulevich.
No, the other one, the Kamenovich. Kamenovich once had a situation that the Vadat Sola was able to get a visa for somebody, but being that my Zayda, your father, Shmuel David, was involved with saving so many lives during the war, that it was 2 a.m. and they said, let's call Shmuel David. So they said, no, don't call him, he's sleeping. So Rav Kamenovich says, Ich weiß, Rav Shmuel David, he has not slept a full night ever since the stories of the war came out. He had the Vadat Sola work. He's for sure up, and they called at 2:30 in the morning. And he was waiting for phone calls from Rav Kamenovich of another visa. They
gave to Rav Kamenovich, they gave him a heter because his wife was in the hospitals. So he wasn't able to have high issues with her.
Right.
So he married somebody else instead.
Okay. I hear. Anyway, so that also Zaydi, you could mention at the Rav in Shanghai. He was also by the Chafetz Chaim for a while. No, he stayed.
Yeah.
Bubby was by the Chafetz Chaim for a long time.
Right. Moshe Landinsky was my grandfather.
Your grandfather, wow. The Rosh Shiva, he was with Rosh Shiva by the Chafetz Chaim in the Yeshiva.
The Chafetz Chaim would never start the shir before he asked if Moshe is here. He wouldn't start his shir.
He needed him sitting there. He wanted him to hear it.
He wanted him to sit there.
Why do you think he wanted him to sit there? What do you think the cheshbon was?
Because he wanted to show cover to.
Oh, the cover to the.
To want to show cover to the Moshe Landinsky. Right.
Very nice.
Now the Chafetz Chaim once answered Moshe. He doesn't understand why Hashem leads the world. Most of the people, they're not even religious, so what do you have to keep them for? Why do you lead the world? So Moshe was a very smart person. So he said to the Chafetz Chaim, do you know Itke the Kremike? Itke. She has a store all the way up the hill. And she's open till 2 o'clock in the morning, right? Why is it get open? Who?
No one's coming at one.
Did you ever see? Did you ever see a customer walk in there? No.
Years ago, no. Yeah.
Most probably it pays for her, right?
Right.
So it pays for something. It pays for something.
See if it's the end of the reason. I hear, very good. I hear. Do you remember Shanghai at all? You know, when all the Jews, when
Okay, over here I have a story. I was 5 years older than Chaim, you know.
You were 5 years older than your brother, Uncle Chaim. He was just
I have the Mashgiach of...
Mashgiach, right.
You were 5 years old.
The famous Mashgiach, right. What happened was that it was already after, it was the war in between. It wasn't complete yet, the war. So
this was when the Jews, when Yidden were able to run away from Hitler's power, and they were able to get into Japan.
I remember every day, wounded soldiers, Japanese soldiers were carried away. Every day.
Bombings, all the bombings that were taking place, even in Shanghai. Seeing the warfare, you saw the war.
Right, there was more. So Chiang Kai-shek was like he was the president in that time, but he wasn't communist yet. It wasn't.
Do you remember your travels to get to Shanghai, or you don't remember that? The travel?
No, I remember the war.
You remember the boat ride? How did you get to Shanghai? By boat?
Okay, it's right over here. How do you get to Shanghai? Because we wanted to get a visa to go to Shanghai. My father was looking for a visa to get here. I write it over here.
Okay, you remembered it. Did Mommy got it from your writing?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we came to Shanghai, and you saw that in China they welcomed us. They welcomed
the Jews, the Eden.
Very much.
Amazing.
Not only that, they sent a letter to the German government. Why you torturing these Jews?
Really? Wow. Hashem sends emissaries. Emissaries, is that the word? Hashem sends his malachim and his people to take care of Klal Yisrael, even people that normally today would be enemies in a certain way.
Right.
Anyway, so from Shanghai...
I was 8 months old. That's when we were... My mother went to my grandfather and said, "Why are you staying here? Why don't you run away?" We are running away.
And this is in Poland, in Russia, where we...
This was on the way.
Yeah, on the way, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you know that my grandfather said then that the Germans were very nice to us. They were very nice in World War I. They were very nice to us, but this is already World War II.
So from Shanghai, you came to America, correct? You and the family came to America.
Right. 1940.
When did you come to America?
I have it written down.
It's okay. What's it?
Let me hear. It was in, what year was that over here? I don't remember.
It's okay. Don't
yeah? I learned to tell you.
You don't need the papers.
I learned.
You started in Torah?
Yeah.
At what age?
At age six.
Oh, before your bar mitzvah.
Yeah.
And your
I used to take Tompkins Avenue bus.
Okay, where'd they move to Brownsville? Where'd they live originally?
Originally, we were in Crown Heights.
Crown Heights. So you went straight to Crown Heights from Shanghai.
Right.
Empire Boulevard over there.
Empire Boulevard.
Okay.
Right.
And if you went to Torah till your bar mitzvah, right?
Yeah. You know why? Because that's when we married. Somebody married Rabbi Moshe's daughter, so we became relatives to the Sorotskins.
And Sorotskins were in Torah at the time?
No, the Sorotskins were in Cleveland.
That's how Tells. You went from Torah you went to Tells.
Right.
And the reason why you went to Tells is because of the Sorotskin family, which were relatives.
Because they married. Right. The Beis Aaron married Rabbi Moshe's daughter.
Reb Zalman was who?
Reb Zalman was Reb Moshe's son.
So they were brother-in-laws.
No, that was his son. This was
the Beis Aaron and Reb Zalman were what?
Brother-in-law.
Okay, right.
No,
the
Beis Aaron's mother was a brother-in-law to...
Oh, the mother was a sister-in-law to...
Right.
Okay, so now let me ask you. So you went to Tells.
Right.
Who was the Rosh Hashivas in Tells at the time?
Rabbi Meir.
You remember anything about what was his called?
The one we east on is East 106th Street.
Was Rav Gifter?
Cleveland. It was Cleveland.
Was Rav Gifter there at the time?
Yes, they were all there.
So
As Rosh Yeshivas.
they were Rosh Yeshiva. Do you remember stories of Rav Elimeir Bloch, right?
Yes, he died when I was there.
He didn't die because of you.
He
He said,
passed away.
I have the same dog.
I remember it. I still remember it.
And Rav Gifter, you remember Rav Gifter?
They were all Rosh Yeshivas.
Can you tell me something about Rav Gifter that was special about him? What was
Gifters, they were very strong. Rav Mottel, Rav Gifter, Rav Baruch.
Physically, spiritually, what were they?
Oh, they were like a team. They were like a team.
What was their koach in Torah? What was their koach?
Rosh Yeshiva.
What was their koach? What was their strength?
Well, they
Glattkeit, sharpkeit. What was their strength? What was their koach? Tell us a derech.
They learned
Tell us a derech.
it wasn't brisk, that's it.
What does that mean? It wasn't brisk.
They learned pashtus.
Brisk is not pashtus.
No.
This is even more pashtus than brisk. This is more pashtus than brisk.
Rav Chaim.
I hear.
Rav Chaim is...
So this was pure pashtus of pashtus. I hear you. So that was their koach. Okay, their koach was that they were able to learn a block Gemara.
Yeah. They were able to learn about it.
And then from Telz, where'd you go from Telz? To base of Talmud?
Right. I went to Rabbi Malin.
So you lived with Rabbi Malin.
Yeah.
Rabbi Malin was one of the big Rosh Yeshivas from Rabbi Baruch Beh, from the Brisker Rav. He was even...
Oh, he was a brisker.
He was a Brisker from the Brisker. But first,
He was a born brisk. He lived
in Brisk.
He was 9 years. He lived in Brisk, right.
He was Mamish, the Brisker Rav's, one of his best Talmidim.
We used to have questions. So Leib says, you know what? Let me learn through the Gemara. The way he learned through all questions.
Just from the Gemara. No Rishonim Achronim. Let me learn the Gemara.
It was always
Shot. Wow. What was the greatness besides that? Is there something that stuck out to you about Rabbi Leib?
Leib was always to the point. You understand?
Always even in life, when you asked him questions in life, was he late? Hashkafa-wise?
I tell you, I used to live in Crown Heights.
Okay.
And I used to daven an hour earlier.
Okay.
So when they finished davening, I went to what's it called again? Jerome Avenue. No?
Okay.
I used to go there. So
what was it? Jerome Avenue. What was there?
This was Beis HaTalmud.
Oh, Beis HaTalmud. So you went to Beis HaTalmud.
Right. So since I came an hour earlier, I went down to the basement.
Okay.
All of a sudden, I see the door open very quietly. And somebody's eyeing me. And he's eyeing, and he comes to me. What did I learn? I learned
Kachip.
What?
Kachip? What were you learning?
No. Kachip is beside that to learn yeshiva.
Right. Oh, your own thing. Oh, you were learning your own thing.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a guy that put out the Torah crowd. He put out on the Chumash.
You were learning on the Parsha something. Okay,
Right.
yeah.
So if he looks at me, you make sure I don't move, Says, what are you learning? Says, I'm learning the Torah crowd. It's passage right there.
I hear you. Yeah. And I had a similar story with Shmuel Birnbaum. I wasn't the biggest learner.
You knew him the best.
I wasn't the biggest learner. So sometimes I would come by accident early, so I could leave early. I come early, and I'm sitting in the basement, I was saying Tehillim. And I see from the corner of my eye, nobody was in the basement. It was early, it was breakfast time. And I see him walking towards me. But I see how he was walking. He opened up this sefer, that sefer, and I know he's coming. I'm the only guy there. So I see him.
Imitate him very well.
So he comes over to me and he says, Walkin, was tust du? I said, Zog da bissel Tehillim. I'm saying some Tehillim. Now, Tehillim is an amazing thing, but he wanted to show that I wasn't always there, and that's what he was trying to show me. That's really what it was. For the few moments you had, you can reusing maybe your time a little more. He tells me, was hast du for the Tehillim? After the block tomorrow, I not listen. Was hast du for the Tehillim? Tehillim is an amazing thing.
But this is Rav Shmuel being.
Yes, that's what Rav Shmuel. In other words, walking. I don't see you that often. For the 10 minutes you're here, that's
risk. Yeah, risk.
That's Torah.
You know, when Beis Aaron married to the chief's daughter.
Rabbi's grandfather.
Yeah.
Beis Aaron.
Married to the chief's daughter.
The
Beis Aaron. Yeah.
What's it called? The Briskers.
Yeah.
He married into the Rabbi Chaim Brisker, not sorry. Rabbi Chaim Brisker went to the yeshiva there. Went to yeshiva there. So somebody came over to the Beis Aaron and says, if you'll join our group, you'll know all the Karen Oiris by heart.
And the current owner
carried on. It was a big
safer at that time.
big safe at that time. So the Rebbe Aaron answered him, Mamiya, I got to retire if he knows the rat in the door also.
You know, they give me a gadol and this basic stuff.
Yeah.
Things you have to.
You know, the Rebbe Aaron, what was his name, told me, I don't remember what name. She told me that the Rebbe Aaron Svarim are using the yeshiva.
Wait, Troy, I'll tell you an unbelievable story. You got to hear this. A man walks over to me, and I don't know his name either. See, you're not the only one who doesn't remember his name. He comes over to me for weeks. He's bothering me. I have to tell you his name. I need a bass iron. I need a bass. I'm learning Subis now.
Yeah.
A very wicked, geschmack guy, older guy. He must be in his 50s, 60s.
Yes.
And he tells me, I need the bass irons. So I actually gave him my copy. He said to me, now that I have the bass iron at Subis, I could start learning.
Right.
I could start learning. He told me.
Right.
Start learning. Now let's
The Rebbe Aaron was sick.
Yeah.
He died in the hospital.
Oh, he died.
Yeah, so you know who found out his outside Berman? There was a guy,
Zundel Berman.
somebody, the family Berman.
Yeah, the Bermans. Yeah.
So he looked through the books there. He saw that Rav Heshman, the Rebbe Aaron was left. Right.
Wow. Okay. Let me add.
Based on Talmud to Mir, no?
Basic Talmud, you went to the Mir, right?
What?
You went from Basic Talmud to the Mir, right?
In Jerome Avenue.
Yeah, the Mir. You went to the Mir also, no?
Yeah, but first I went to the...
Yeah, but you went to the Mir. When you went to the Mir,
you know what?
who'd you learn by in the Mir?
I learned by Rav Moshe Ginsburg.
And with Brudney's.
Yeah, Shmuel Butner. He was my main rabbi.
He was your main
Right.
Brudney's father.
He
What was
learned
special about
He
Shmuel
learned
Brudney?
by another god, I forgot his name.
What was special about Shmuel Brudney, in your opinion? We know that he had tremendous quality. What was special?
All learned good shot.
Pshat.
Pshat.
You grew up with learning Pshat. That was your derech of Halisha. Focus on the Pshat. Focus on the Pshat.
Right. This is the koyach of the Rosh Hashivas. Shot. To know the Emirates was this time getting the over.
You know, they say over that people should write Svarim of what not to say. Of what not to say. And it'll be volumes of what not to say.
The Brisker always just
You
said,
learn better if I remember you used to learn with me with Baruch Moshe Ginsburg's Svarim all the time.
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you that my father took very special care of me. And I wasn't always the best bacher. I was verspelt a bissel. And I just have to say over a few stories from you, actually. I do remember letters you would write to me when I was in St. Louis. I went to yeshiva in St. Louis. My father sent me there because I was too into sports. So it's a different generation today. You know, today, what was my chisar? And I was following sports a little too much. You know, I think today I'd consider it a god. No, but whatever. I was following sports a little too much. So you wanted me to go there. So I remember you writing me letters, and you wrote me a letter like this once. You said, Avram, I want you to know you're like Avram Avinu. What's Avram Avinu? Avram Avinu went me'evel anar, and he went across the seas. He was able to learn Torah. He was able to do his chesed. I sent you to St. Louis. Your name is Avram. You went across the oceans. And then you write me in a letter. You write, I know you like steak. I know you like steak, you told me. And I said, you know what learning Torah is? And you wrote me small letters. You know what learning Torah is? Learning Torah is like eating steak all day, every day, never being full, it won't cost you money, and you have it in front of you whenever you want, and every bite is like your first bite. Wow. That is like learning. I was 15 years old. Learning Torah is on your level, which you understand, which is like a steak. It's like eating steak all day and never being full, and every bite you take is like your first bite. I do remember that. And now let's go a little bit into my brother. That's our Rabbi Aaron Walkin. That's our Rashiva of Chazaq, or Shiva for many people. Poisik, Talmud Chacham, psychologist, Baal Chesed, all the titles. I remember growing up, and I'm not embarrassed to say this, I should be, that I was like the black sheep compared to Aaron. Which, hey, that's an honor, to be a black sheep of a flock, of such special flock. That's also something. At least you're in that flock, I was Rosh, whatever. Anyway, so I do remember the greatness of Aaron from youth, from little, valedictorian. Always making, he always had like upstairs, he made a little shul out of our room, he'd sit for Torah, and he would play Rav. He always liked to play Rav, even as a little boy. So what were your memories? Send me some memories of Aaron, his co-op, my side. Yeah.
I remember him, he had tremendous koiches.
A genius. What?
Yes, genius. He was able to go into the unofficial dollar. Right. He was able to go
Into the depths.
Right.
And you know what? I'll tell you what he accomplished for generations. How he took Bachrim, Bukhari and Bachrim.
I'm at it at the end. At the end.
We're not at the end yet.
When I became in kindergarten,
Yeah.
I took all the people. I made him Shem Shabbos. I made him sit and learn Torah. I made him.
We know that. We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about your status in before I interview what you've accomplished for them. Obviously.
Yes.
So basically, but Aaron played a very big role at Chazaq. So we want to just mention that that his greatness obviously came from seeing you and from seeing Zaidi before David. He was very close to Zaidi.
Sorry, he was.
He was he looked up to the base Aaron,
Right.
but he was close to Zaidi. He was close to your father, very good. And Zaidi before David took a special interest in him and a certain love for him that was different.
Right.
He knew his kofos. Now, so let's get to. I do remember 30-something years ago when I got you involved in Binat Cham.
Oh, I remember now her name. That the Rosh Labeler. Leon.
Label it to Leon as a big change.
Yeah. Leon.
He was a Rosh Hashiva. There was
No. Remember I told you that there was somebody didn't want to take him.
Oh.
Remember?
The guy
Labeler.
the label.
Could you label Leon Trotsky? He was the head of all the Bolsheviks. Yeah, right. Leon Trotsky. That was his name. Leon.
Rosh Hashiva.
Because the officer, I asked him, do you remember Label? That's what the Chofetz Chaim is. Do you remember Label? He is Leon Trotsky.
Rabbi Avram, I want to also get into, I know the Rav Shmida that last year with Rabbi Moshe Feinstein.
Okay.
That was, I think, after Mir.
They write this. After I went to the Mir, my father sent me to Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. Why? Because he wanted me to become more worldly.
Pesach, Psak Halacha.
Yeah, Psak Halacha, right. Because in Beis Talmud, it was all learn. I wasn't accomplishing just right.
On that level.
So he wanted me, he sent
Really?
me. He sent me to Rabbi Moshe.
What are your memories of Rabbi Moshe Feinstein?
You know what Rabbi Moshe Feinstein? Rabbi Moshe Feinstein was that just like when I learned in the yeshiva, he was able to explain all the shaklatari of the Rishonim. From the Gemara.
Amazing. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
So Rabbi Moshe Feinstein explained all the shittas in the Torah. And he explains why the Torah has all these things.
And they say over there that Moshe was able to be Pesach, to be Psak Halacha from Gemara.
Right.
Psak Halacha from a Gemara almost. From his knowledge.
Right.
From his knowledge.
Leon Trotsky, that was his name.
Going back to Leon. I think you were closer to Leon than to... so let me ask you.
Label, yes.
And the Rav got smicha.
Remember Label?
You also got smicha for Moshe Feinstein.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have any great stories for Reb Moshe that you could remember? I do remember myself, once a year we were invited to Reb Moshe to eat supper there. I do remember that.
In the Lower East Side.
In the Lower East Side. We'd go down, the whole family, during the summer, and we'd eat supper.
You know, Michal was Reb Moshe's a nephew.
A nephew. Yeah, because he married a small. Because...
Michal Feinstein.
No, Michal Feinstein. Michal Small.
Michal Small.
Michal Small was our uncle, my father's brother-in-law.
Father's brother.
Married my father's oldest sister. The oldest of the family, actually, was Chaiki Small.
Right.
The oldest of the five. She was actually married to Rav Michal Small, who was a big Rav in Chicago. Famous Rav in Chicago. Big Talmud Rav Aaron Kotler. Talmud Rav Aaron Kotler. And
learned the Lakewood for
many years. So Reb Moshe's sister married Reb Michal Small's father.
So it's mishpacha.
Yeah.
It's a good family.
I know that Rav Aaron Zatzal, Sandak, Rav Moshe Feinstein.
Yeah, Reb Aaron, your son, my brother, his Sandak was Reb Moshe Feinstein. His Sandak was Moshe Feinstein.
Of course, the name Aaron gave in the memory of my grandfather.
Yeah.
So we looked at it as a very big schus.
And they felt Rabbi Moshe obviously is knowing Rabbi Moshe
Right.
began.
Right.
So do you have any stories from Rabbi Moshe that stand out? What was, besides Rabbi Moshe's greatness, we know his midas and his chesed and his love for Klal Yisrael and his, what was, to you, who was Rabbi Moshe? To who?
Why she understood Torah the way all the Briskers understand it.
Even though he didn't learn like Brisk, but he understood it.
No, but he explained all the sheet.
He knew everything. He knew
All
everything.
the sheet in the tour.
Human being could know.
In the tour, he explained all the sheet.
Wow. And then after that, you got married. Obviously, you got married, and then you moved to Kew Gardens.
Right.
There you go. And you have
5 blocks away from the Lubavitcher Rebbe.
Where the Lubavitcher Rebbe is now, you're saying?
Eastern Parkway.
Oh yeah. A few blocks away. Yeah, a few minutes away.
5 blocks away.
No, Kew Gardens is not 5 blocks away. No, 5 blocks away is not.
I lived on Empire Boulevard.
Oh, you lived then. You're in Empire.
And 5 blocks up is Eastern Parkway. That's Chabad.
No, when you moved to Kew Gardens, right? So you took over Zadie's shul. Zadie had a shul.
Shmuel David lived in Kew Gardens?
He kept the show. Oh, he moved to
Kew Gardens.
Kew Gardens.
And then you took over the shul.
He passed away.
Yeah, so you took over the shul.
Always Aaron.
Base Aaron.
Till today.
And we have close to 30 years of experience.
Over 30 years with the Bukhaim community. The Rav could tell us.
Yeah, I write it at the end.
You know you
that I made them all Shem Shabbos. Reuven, what's his last name again?
Aldabayev? No.
No, Reuven.
There's more than one. There's more than one.
I know.
Hundreds.
Shimonov.
The Shimunov.
Shimunov, right.
The Mahalabov and the Shimunov.
He was the first one that closed shop. Closed it.
Shop on Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Yeah. And you know, my father.
Shout out to the Shimon.
I will tell you, my father, Mamish has a kehillah of 75 mishpachas. And this lady, actually, this girl that's sitting here, when I walked in, she saw you. She said to me, "Oh my, that's your father? He married off her parents. You married off her parents." That girl was saying, that's why she was standing there. She was so excited that you married off her parents. I don't know if she's saying that in a good way or not. I go. But anyway,
how's the community involved from 35 years ago?
How would you say the community started when you got there, and how the Bukhari community, how it
Bukharians, they didn't know what was Shabbos. Right at the last page.
No problem, yeah.
At last page. I made him Shem Shabbos. I made him B'nai Torah.
Paras HaMishpacha, everything.
Right.
And they're very makusher. You should know. They look at my father.
You know what happened? I'll tell you what happened. Reuven Shimonev is one of my biggest chassidim. So he asked me if I have Ruach HaKodesh. If I would have said yes, I would have been packed with creepy.
Maybe you should have said yes.
I said, no, I don't have Ruach.
There you go. Anyway.
So how come? Because I see you both gave the wrong answer.
What?
They both gave the wrong answer.
Who's both? What do you mean?
This guy and this guy. So they cheated from a shirt.
I hear you. Anyway, the bottom line is that you've made thousands of people from and
turned the B'chayim.
You did. You first. Before Aaron.
Turned the B'chayim community to B'nai Torah.
100%. And Aaron too, and you and Aaron, 100%. 100%.
They weren't against. They were.
I was working with them.
I'm saying.
Yeah. Did you ever have stories that you had to fight? You know, people that were against it.
No.
The tradition. That's like how the quality
from the beginning.
From the beginning, they all trusted me and everything.
It
wasn't so easy to make him a Shem Shabbos.
Why? Why would they say?
Because it doesn't happen overnight.
Right. No. So what would they say? I have to make parnasa. It's hard for me. What would they say? We have to make a living. I can't give up my job.
But they didn't have to say it. That's what they felt. They felt that way. They don't have to give it. You don't have to talk.
I hear. You know, they didn't have to give up. They just felt that way. I hear what you're saying. I hear you.
You know, if I could ask from the Rebbe Shlita some chizuk for Klal Yisrael, for those listening, out Limud Torah. Every time I see the Rav, many times.
Right, I said learning. Right.
Many people, they open up a sefer and they.
I grew up seeing you always not wasting a minute of time. Always learning.
I used to learn for the little light.
Yeah, there was a little light on the floor. Yeah, there was a little light on the floor.
Right there.
And my father would lay on the floor. In the pajamas, I remember, you're on the floor, sometimes in your clothing too, by a little light. And he would sit and learn for hours. Because he would stay upstairs to make sure we fell asleep. I remember that. You have to go upstairs to make sure we weren't playing around, me and the brothers, whatever. So he would lay on the floor, and I remember that. I remember times that I'd come down Friday nights at 3, 4, 5 in the morning to get something from the fridge, usually a beer. No, to get something from the fridge that I couldn't bring to the Shabbos table. So I'd come down at 4 or 5 in the morning looking to see if anybody was up, you know. And you'd be sitting in the den with the lights on. So I sent over a story that actually went viral on Torah Anytime. I sent over a story once that I come down at 3 in the morning. It was summertime. And, you know, we didn't have central air, so the air conditioner would go on and off. It would get hot sometimes. And I would once in a while, 17, 18 years old. Was that legal? And I wanted a beer sometimes. Once in a while, Friday night, I would buy a Michelob one Michelob, and I put it in the back of the fridge. So you really didn't want it at the Shabbos table, which I don't blame you for. And, you know, sometimes it just quenched my thirst, you know. So I remember walking down the steps. I was 17 years old. And the thing was, Baruch Hashem, everybody's sleeping. And I know you were in the den. So I said I could get past you. You never noticed. I remember I would take out transistor radios that he took away from me in the desk that he was sitting there. Because he was
so engrossed in learning.
Yeah, he would take it away because he overheard it. And then, you know, I was into the ball games, you know, Mets, Yankees, whatever it was. And when I was like a little boy.
What's Mets Yankees? I was joking.
I said Mets, Yankees. Well, the Yankees, not knowing the Mets today is a good thing. But anyway, so basically, I remember he put the radio there, and I knew where he'd put it all the time, the same place. And I would sneak down, me and my brothers would be, not our, but the other one. And we would sneak down the steps, and he'd be learning that, and we would really crawl, literally underneath him. Open the drawer, take it out, and go back upstairs. And then he'd come to me 2 days later when he heard it again, because I remember they would go off sometimes, listen to the game. He would say, I thought I took it away from you. But anyway, but you put it back in the same place all the time, but that's a different issue. So I was walking down the steps, and I went to get a drink from the fridge. And I saw that the light in the den was off. So I said to myself, oh, Baruch Hashem, my father, this Friday night is able to get some sleep. Because the lights went out. I knew because the lights went out. Because every Friday night, he didn't go into sleep. He would stay up the whole night. Usually, I knew he'd fall asleep by his Gemara. I'd wake up in the morning, and he was still learning. And I come into the kitchen, and the ovens in those days had like a light. You know, on top of the oven, there was a light with a black button that you pressed. And I guess maybe saved electricity. You know what I'm saying? People saved electricity in those days. So the light was on, and I see you standing, leaning over, like you were waiting for me to catch me. No. And I see you leaning over with your Gemara by this little light. It was 3 in the morning, something like that. And I asked you, what happened? He said the light went out in the den, and so I have to continue learning. So you went to the oven. And I went upstairs, and I said to myself, you know, people use it as an excuse. You know, I can't learn now. The lights went out. Sitting from Hashem, that I shouldn't be learning now. You looked at it like it was a challenge, and you overcome a challenge like that. So I do remember you learning, and you remember always telling me, because you used to walk around with Sfarim and learn, and you would tell me it's always safer with a safer. It's safer with a safer. Remember that? You tell me it's safer with a safer.
Oh, wow, amazing. So Chazaq al Torah, if there would be some Chazaq that the Rav could give over.
Chazaq is that when you learn, Hashem will cover you. That's it. V'suas melech pai.
Which means, and translate for people,
Hashem will cover you. Hashem is always with him.
Yeah.
V'suas melech. And
the blowing of the horn of the king.
Right.
In other words,
is always with him.
The one who learns Torah.
Right.
It's like the crowning of the king, and the one that learns is like the guy who's blowing that horn to commemorate, to bring in the melech. Big honor, big stuff. I can get this. I mean, I could get this whenever I want. I don't always take advantage.
You have to have a geschmack to learn.
When learning.
Always learning, always telling, always caring. I remember, we'll end with this also. I do remember when I got married, I was in Kollel. My father would travel before I got married. Every single day by train.
And go to
Chaim Epstein. And he would sit in the chair. He sat in the chair by Chaim Epstein with all the young boys. He would sit in the front. But he sat like with desks because he wanted to hear the shir so that he could say it over to me. I was in Kollel to say it over to me correctly, that I should know it well. See? And I asked him once, why don't you take the car? You drive. He says, because in the car he can't learn. On the train he has an hour, 15 minutes, so you can learn on the way there. And I think he told me once that you do your daf. You do the daf yomi on the train sometimes.
Yeah.
What a Moshe Yoel can give everyone a bracha.
Should be happy. You should all have hatzlacha. That's it.
Amen. Yeshakach. A world we once knew, Rabbi Moshe Yoel Walkin, Yeshakach to Rabbi Avram. What a amazing co-host.
Wow. Now I have to change it.
Baruch Hashem, Chaz Hashem. We want to thank everyone for joining us. Chazaq Torah Talks, Tuesday nights with special guests, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you very much to Natan and the whole team of Chazaq behind the scenes. And we want to remind everyone this is the summer, and we're full force with yeshiva placement. The September school year, Chazaq's mission of getting kids, into yeshivot, if not into yeshivot, in the after-school program, Sunday school program, theme division program. And if you have a family, friend, and neighbor, anybody wants to get involved, please reach out to Chazaq. CHZAQ dedication is always available. And we want to thank all of the platforms and to Torah Time and Daily Giving and everyone else. Thank you very much. Yeshakach, Rabbi Moshe.